Okay, so let's talk about how does a cop get into your house, or what can you do to stop a cop from getting in your house, or what's your legal rights? As a cop and as a peace officer, there's only a few ways I can get into your house, okay? And that's either through a warrant, through consent, meaning you invite me in or allow me in, or through exigent circumstances. Now, if I get a warrant, I go to a judge, I say, here's why I want in, here's my probable cause statement, here's my reason to believe that I'm going to find evidence of this crime in this house. And the judge goes, okay, that sounds reasonable. He signs a warrant. Now I have a warrant. I don't have to ask you, depending on your laws, you have to do what's called a knock and notice. They have no-knock warrants. I don't like them. I think they're dangerous. I think that's how cops are getting shot, and I think people have a right to defend their home. So when you do a no-knock notice warrant, you just kick the door and go in. You're putting your life at risk, and you're putting the people inside at risk. So I don't like no-knock warrants. It doesn't take that hard to stand out there with a gun. You know, you got your RAM guy there, and you bang on the door. Police demand entry, search warrant. You know, that's what cops ought to be saying. That's what all law enforcement says. You identify yourself as a law enforcement agency, police. You demand entry, and you say you either have a search warrant, arrest warrant, whatever. So our normal thing was police search warrant, demand entry, and I would do it 3 times. They didn't answer the door, bang, bang, bang. Police search warrant, demand entry, police search warrant. And we'd have somebody recording that from a distance, so a case later they said it didn't happen. And we'd log on the radio, we're making entry now. So that would give us a timestamp, the radio is recorded, and we know. So, you know, if cops cover their ass, it's very easy to prove what you did on a search warrant. Now, if you don't do that, and then shit goes bad and somebody gets killed and it's the wrong house, a wrong person gets shot, and there's all kind of issues, and you didn't do all that, you're going to have a tough road to prove what you were doing. So keying the radio and saying something gives you a timestamp. It lets people know what's going on. And if I wasn't doing the knock and I was just somewhere down in the line, or I was on a corner or a perimeter, when I heard them knock, I would key the mic so I could hear them in the background. And we would always put somebody in back of the house who could hear the person in front. Because you don't want to knock on the door and go, police demand entry, police demand entry, police demand entry. Go, okay, let's kick the door, go ahead. Because that's not what the spirit of the law, it's not the intent of the law. The intent is to give people inside the right to comply and do it, and open the door. Now, a lot of times, you know, you bang on the door and you say police demand entry, and all of a sudden you hear people running, you hear doors slamming, you hear feet sloveling. Now that moves us into the other thing of exigency, what I'll get to in a minute. But for a search warrant, I don't need to say, we'd like to come in and search your house, I have a search warrant. I'm going to tell you and demand, I have a court order signed, you either open the door or we're going to kick it, because we're coming in and we're searching. So, now search warrant takes a lot more work. A lot of cops don't like to do them. They don't know how to do them, they don't do it enough, they don't do it a lot, they don't know the process. You know, you have to do a return warrant on the evidence. There's all kind of issues with a search warrant, but you know what? I did hundreds of them, they're easy, I don't mind them, and I can knock one out pretty damn quick, and it covers my butt. And it makes it a lot easier, because then I don't have to sit here and frick around with somebody going, you know, I'd really like your consent to do this. No, I ain't giving you consent. Okay, you can come in. So, search warrant, one way to get in your house. If somebody has a warrant, they're going to get in. The other way is consent. I come to your door, knock on your door, you open your door, how you doing? I'm Officer so-and-so, I'm Detective so-and-so. I'd like to come in and talk to you. Because once I get in the house, I know it's better, and it's harder for you to get me out. And once I get in the house, I can raise my suspicion level, I can see something in plain view, and then I prevent you from terminating the interview or terminating the discussion. If you don't open your door, and I knock on the door and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Okay, talk to me through the door, what do you want? Well, you know, I kind of like to talk to you in person. I'd like to be able to sit down, I've got a few questions. No, I ain't opening the door and you ain't coming in. If you want to come in, go get a warrant. Okay, I'm done. I can't go in there because I don't have consent and I don't have a warrant. Which leads us to our third option. Exigency, emergency circumstance, and in an exigency situation, a cop can enter a house doing an exigency if he can prove the exigency. Then it becomes on my burden to say why I went in without a warrant, without consent. Now, exigency can be several things. It can be the house is on fire. I mean, I've kicked doors when a house is on fire at night, nobody's answering. I don't know if anybody's clear or not. So I busted in the door and went in. Happened to be the wrong house. The lady wasn't real happy. The houses were connected. It was the next house. Poor old granny come out. We get her outside. You broke my window. No, the city will pay for it. Come on out. So, but again, if there's an exigency, I think your life's in danger. I don't need a warrant and I don't need your consent. If I think a child's life is in danger, I don't need your warrant. If I hear somebody yell, help, I'm being raped, I'm being murdered, help, get in here, police, I need your help, that's my exigency, I can go in. So now I don't need a warrant and I don't need your consent. I can just get in on what's called exigency circumstances. Another exigency that's kind of iffy is, let's say I get a call of the neighbors saying that there's a big fight going on. But when I show up, the house is quiet and I don't see anything going on. Well, I knock on the door, nobody answers. Now, in order for me to go in, I have to be able to see, smell, hear, taste something in my senses that I can articulate why I felt the need to go in this house. Now, if the 911 call came from this house and a lady screamed help and the phone was disconnected, then I would go in the house. Because to me, that's enough to know, I don't know if there's somebody in there hurt, the phone was disconnected, we don't know the circumstances, somebody could be there being held hostage or being hurt, I'm going in. Okay? But if the neighbor called and said, I heard screaming, it sounds like they're arguing, I want the cops to come. And I go, I don't hear anything, no one's called 911, I knock on the door and nobody answers. Kicking the door on that's a little bit iffy. You're gonna have a little bit bigger hill to climb in order to justify why you kick the door on that. Now, if I'm standing at the front door and I'm looking through the mirror, because I can look, cops can look wherever they're legally to be. So if I can get to your front door, anything I can see, smell, hear, taste there, I can use that to justify my next action. So if I'm at the front door and I'm kind of glancing through your window because your window's open and I see a body run by, now somebody's in the house and they're not answering the door and they heard somebody arguing. So now I'm probably not leaving until I talk to somebody. And then instead of just kicking the door at that moment, I would probably articulate, look, I just saw you run by. If you don't open the door, I'm going to kick it. I'm going to get more units here. Let's make this easy. I know you're in there. Open the door. Then if they don't open, then we'll kick the door. So when you're working on an exigency situation to get in someone's house, it's up to the cop to create that exigency. Now, the incident that a person just called is supposedly his elderly grandparent or mother or somebody was on the phone with Social Security. They were giving her a runaround. He got upset on the other end, kind of says bullshit. They're full. Said something that made them call the cops. So the cops show up to his house, and they barge in his house, and then he's like, "Hey, you can't come in here." Try to serve his rights, and he ended up getting arrested. And he was like, "Hey, does that sound right to you?" Unfortunately, it does sound right. And here's the problem. When you get called on an elder abuse, child abuse, or something like that, or domestic violence to where you think there's danger or a person might have been injured, that creates an exigency. So when cops show up, we have to confirm that there is no exigency and no one's hurt. So when those cops showed up to there, because Social Security, and that's the problem with government, when you talk to government knows the keywords, especially these women support groups for violence against women and all these other groups trying to, they tell women what to say. Oh, well, you got to say you're scared, and then you get the kids, and you got to file a restraining order, because then that'll take his guns, and then you get the kids, because he can't have the goods if he's a restraining order, and you have to say you're scared of violence, and you have to use these key words. So they know how to manipulate the system. Well, all government employees knows how to get the cops out there. If you're a jerk to them, they can say, hey, you know what, this person kind of threatened me. I want you to go check them out and ID them. This person said something in the background and was yelling at his kid, and I think they might have hurt their kid. I want the cops to go by and do a welfare check. So when cops come out to do a welfare check, we have to confirm that the welfare that we're checking on is somehow, validated that there's not an issue there. Because if we leave and somebody ends up dead, then the cop that went there is kind of on the shit list. So when these cops came there, they were in their mind, they're like, we can try the nice way. We'll knock on the door and ask him to call his grandmother or talk to his grandmother. Or we can be a jerk because he caused us to come out here and he's being a jerk to one of our other government employees. We're a family. We're all in a system, team player, all that crap with the government. So, since he pissed off one of our people, we're going to go ahead and make him pay. So we're not going to be nice. We're just going to open the door. Well, where's your grandmother? We need to see her. We think she's in danger. Get out of the way. Wait a minute. This is my house. This is my castle. You can't come. You need a warrant. Shut up. Handcuff him. If you try to stop us, we're going to arrest you for obstruction, which they did. They arrested him for obstruction because he tried to say, you can't come in. I'm not giving you permission to come in. Well, and he's saying that he evidently called his grandmother was coming, but it wasn't fast enough for them. And that's where you get into the iffy part. That's where people start asserting their rights and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or you can't do that, or I have rights. You need to know what the cops are going to do and where you're put in a position. Had he not opened the door, they probably wouldn't have kicked the door. Had he not opened the door and said, who's at the door? Police, can you open the door? I need to talk to you. About what? Hey, I don't want to talk to you through the door. Open the door. No, I ain't opening the door. Then the cops have to decide, do we have enough to kick the door? Which I would probably say they didn't. If he'd have turned on a recorder when they knocked on the door and said, hey guys, I don't know why you're here. I'm willing to cooperate. I don't want to open the door till you explain to me what's going on. The cop goes, fuck you, I ain't explaining shit, open the damn door, we're going to kick it. Well, now he's got that on audio, and that kind of helps his case a little bit if they arrest him later. But unfortunately, he opened that door, and once you open that door, now a cop is in a position where I don't want to give up ground. I don't want to have to retake ground. So once you open that door, now I can see in there or I can hear things. I heard somebody move. So here's what these cops are going to say. They arrested him for 148. In California, 148 is resisting arrest, obstructing officer, delaying, obstructing officer. So they arrested him for that. He goes to jail. He gets a record. They call him and they interview him. They talk to him nicely. And then they end up letting him go, and the DA goes, we're not filing charges. Well, no shit, you're not filing charges. Because the guys went in his house, and he was protecting his house, and it would be a shit case, and most juries would go, what the hell, why did cops arrest you? We're not going to convict him. So the DA's like, because the DA's ruling on when I take something to case, when I take something to trial, I have to have a reasonable expectation that I'm going to win. DAs don't like to take cases to trial, they lose, because it makes them look bad, it ruins their record. They like to have, you know, when they're all politicians, they all like to put out press releases. I got a 98% conviction rate. I got 100% correct. When I hear that, I'm always laughing because I'm like, yeah, because you take cherry-picking cases and you let other real victims suffer because you can't win a case, so you don't file. So to me, when a politician goes, I got 100% or 98% arrest record, to me, that's code for you've shit on a lot of victims and you haven't done your job because you know you couldn't win all the cases. So instead of going in there and trying and giving a good effort and putting a bad guy behind jail, you cut a deal or let him go on something minor. So anyway, so what's your rights at your house? How do you stop a guy? Well, first of all, you don't open the door. Because once you open that door, there's a difference between kicking a door and preventing you from closing the door. Once you open the door, I can say, you know what? Okay, fine. You don't want me coming in here? I got to see your grandmother. And if she ain't coming, I'm going to get a warrant. And I'm going to go in there. And if I think she's hurt, I'm going to go in there right now. But, I mean, technically, if a cop wants to do the right thing, he can say, ma'am, are you in there? Can you answer me? Can you hear me? If she doesn't respond, yeah, I'm coming. I got to get my walker. I'll be there in a couple minutes. You know, you don't have an issue of destroying evidence. You're talking to the supposed victim. So there's no exigency they can do. Now, if I go there and it's a loud party call and the door opens and now I see somebody who looks like a minor who's got alcohol, I smell something that smells like marijuana, now I have other crimes that it's evidence easily destroyed. So I can always enter a house without consent or a warrant on exigency for prevention of destruction of evidence. So I can stop you from escaping or I can stop you from preventing of evidence. Now another way I can get in your house without a warrant or arrest is called hot pursuit, and that kind of falls under the exigency. If I'm chasing a guy and he gets to his house and gets to shut the door and go, no, you can't come in because you don't have a warrant, because I'm in hot pursuit, as long as that pursuit never ended, as long as there's not a break in that pursuit, I can follow him in that house, kick the door. And there was one incident in Sacramento. There was this big dude. He was a black guy. I pulled over his car to a shit neighborhood. He was a passenger. As soon as I pulled him over, man, this big dude jumps out, throws his hands up. Well, to me, that's what I call a clue. Something's not right. Most people don't do that. So as soon as he throws his hands up, I go, shit, what are you doing? What's got? I said, hey, get back in the car. He goes, no, man, I'm not involved in this. I'm out of here. And he takes off running. And I'm like, shit. Well, I stopped the car and I'd already ran the plate. So I'm assuming the plate came back, this guy, I put in pursuit. This guy's running. I'm thinking this guy either has the drugs, the guns, or he's got a warrant. And the guy in the car saying, man, I don't want no problems. He's behind the driver. I've already got his plate ran. I already know who he is. So you know what? I want the guy that's running. So I went after this guy. And I chased this guy, and he was big dude. And when we got to fences, I was going over, and he was going through them. He just hit his shoulder and knocked down a fence. And he destroyed probably 10 fences in this pursuit. I didn't have a clue where we're at. He took me through because we were cutting through fences. I didn't see streets. I didn't know anything. He ends up going in this house and shutting the door. And when he does, my foot hits it and I go right in. And when I get inside, there's this poor old black guy sitting here watching TV on his recliner and a couple kids, and they're all like, ah! Well, I had my vest on with the police, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, nobody fucking move, show me your fucking hands, I'll shoot off. So I'm screaming like a maniac. This big guy, because I've been chasing him for a while, he's out of breath. He's knocked down a lot of fences. He's tired. He just collapses on the couch and throws his hands back and sits there and goes, don't shoot, man, don't shoot. I'm like, you get all that couch up on it. So I'm on a radio calling for cover, but I don't know where I'm at. So I'm like, shit. I said, dude, you, the guy with the remote who was watching his TV, I don't want no problem. I go pick up the phone, dial 911, because I knew that would give our address. So I said, as soon as 911 gets the phone, tell me you got the police in here, they need backup, we were just in a pursuit. So he's on the phone, it's the police, he got a gun, he said he's the police. So I got this dude on the ground screaming, I got kids, I don't know if he knows this. I kind of figured out after a few minutes that he didn't know them, because I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, I don't know, I've never seen him, and I believed him because they were scared. So I didn't have a warrant, but I was in hot pursuit. He shut the door, I kicked the door. That was considered an exigency or hot pursuit. So anyway, they end up calling 911. He got a gun. He goes, they want to know where you are. I said, tell them Sack Cat's auto theft. He goes, he said he was Sack Cat's and he got a gun. And they're like, all right, they're en route. So the cops come, we end up taking the guy in custody. He was on the run. He was a parole. He owed like 20 years or some shit. So he decided to get away. He'd run out of the car. He didn't want to get run because he figured I was going to run him. But that's a situation where it was a third party's house. He didn't have nothing to do with it. He shut the door. The law isn't going to make a cop go, oh, he shut the door. I guess I'm screwed. The house is castle. I can't go in. They've made it to where there's exigency there. They made it to where there's situations you can get in the house, absence of a warrant or consent. And that's an emergency situation. Exigency, hot pursuit, somebody's in danger, destruction of evidence, public safety. You know, if I go to a house and nobody wants to come in, and I think there's somebody in there, I hear a kid coughing, and there's a gas leak, and I got to evacuate this house, and nobody's answering the door, then I can kick that door to save that kid in case it explodes because I don't want the Cas to kill her or blow up. So that's an exigency. And it's not written in stone in all the exigencies, but that's how cops get in your house. So can you deny them to get in your house? Yes. Can you say, no, you're not coming in? Sure. But you need to realize that if they can develop that exigency, if they have enough information and articulate, or if I want to secure a house, and cops have done this, I've done this, it's pretty routine. If you make me go get a warrant because you're not going to let me in your house, I'm going to say, you know what, I got to secure the scene, which means if I have to go get a warrant, you're going to go in handcuffs, you're coming out of the house, and we're going to search the house, not for evidence, but for other people that might destroy evidence until we get the search warrant. So do I get in your house anyway? Yeah. The only difference is you're on a handcuff sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, while I'm running around calling in a warrant, or I leave and I go, Judge, I got to find a DA. DA's got to sign off on it. I got to find a judge. Judge has to sign it. Then I got to come back, and then we can do our search. So, you know, depending on how proficient the guy is with a warrant, I've seen guys take 6 hours to do a warrant. I've seen guys take, 30, 45 minutes, depending on how close they are to the court and the judge and who's working. Is it daytime or nighttime? You got to go to the judge's house or whatever. So you need to realize that when you tell somebody, no, you can't come in my house, there may be consequences you don't like. This guy got arrested. Did he get convicted? No. Was he right? Kinda. I mean, should they have forced entry? No. The guy was being cooperative. He said, I'll get my grandmother, hang on. And they didn't want to wait. They were pissed. They said, no, we're coming in. And then he said no, and he tried to stop him, so they went, up, you're 148ing, we'll put you in handcuffs. Maybe they would have let him go. Remember I told you in other videos, once you use force on somebody, once I put hands on you and have to do physical force, a lot of agencies have a use of force form, or you're going to have to document anytime you use force. So now you've put me in a position that if I let you go, I'm going to have to justify why I put you in custody and use force on you. So if I use force on you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get booked. Even though I know and most cops know you're never going to get charged, the DA is going to dismiss, you're going to be released, you're going to have to post bond, I'm giving you a criminal record. Even though all that's going to happen, cops are going to probably do that to cover their butts so they don't have to face consequences. Is it right? No, I'm not saying it's right. A lot of people are saying, you're kind of justifying, you're saying this is good. I'm just telling you the way it is. You may not like it. I don't like it. But it is the way it is, and I'm trying to give you information so you understand how somebody get in your house, what your options are, what you don't need to do. If a cop's at the door and you go, no, you ain't coming in, and then you decide to run upstairs and do exercise workout, and you go upstairs 2 or 3 times, a cop's going to be like, you know what, he's running, he won't let us in, maybe he's destroying evidence, we better go in there and preserve evidence. Now, obviously, he has to say what evidence and why he thought it was evidence, and why he thought you were. If I'm going there for an elder abuse, you know, I would say, hey, I thought he was maybe washing the bloody knife, or hiding clothes, or maybe hiding a bat that he hit her with, or maybe he was going to go hit her. So it's very easy for a cop who's been around for a long experience to articulate how to get in someone's house. I can get in most anybody's house pretty damn easy by just using what I'm seeing, hearing, the reason I'm there, your contact. The longer I'm there, the longer we converse, the more I'm going to be able to articulate. If you go, you ain't coming in my house, I ain't open the door until you got a warrant, so if you don't have a warrant, leave my property. And you don't say anything else, you limit my ability to develop more information. The more you talk to me, the more we exchange, the more I can get you to interact. Hey dude, why don't you open the door? I'm just trying to get in. Fuck you, I'm not coming in. Well, you know what? Hey guy, are you on parole probation? Fuck you. Hey dude, you know, I'll run the dispatch. Dispatch run this house for a resident history. Dispatch comes back and goes, hey, we've been there 6 times, and the last times we had Hector Rodriguez, he's on parole for this, and he was at the house and we had to arrest him, and that was 6 months ago. Really? Okay. Hey guy, is Hector here? Fuck you. I'm Hector. Oh, there it is. You open your mouth, now I'm in there. I know you're on parole, you don't have a right. I can go in and kick the door and go in on you. So, you know, I'm telling you this as a good citizen. I'm not trying to tell the crooks how to avoid the cops. I'm telling them as good, decent citizens how you don't want to get into cops, because cops don't know if you're good or bad when we're at the door and you're not coming out anyway. And for some reason in this day and age, it's not normal, accepted, and the public has no rights. And if you question the cop, somehow it insults their dignity, and they're going to make you pay, or they're going to show you who's boss, or they're going to make an example out of you. So, you know, instead of saying, you know what, you're a citizen, you got the rights. Hey, I'm just doing a job. You know what, if you don't want to let me in at your house, I really ain't got no reason to get in there, I'll leave. Have a good day. And be done with it. But, you know, younger cops aren't going to do that. Older cops who don't want to get involved in it, don't want to escalate, who aren't looking to get an arrest, who maybe don't have stats, who maybe aren't, you know, as a detective, when you're working cases, you want to close your cases, you want to solve your cases, you got more cases, you know, you've got other cases going, you may be working multiple cases at one time, so this is only one case, and I got to go work, I got to work 2 other cases, so maybe I do want to waste time, maybe I don't. If this is a poop-butt case that I'm kind of like, you know what, I'm just trying to get off my desk, I'm not going to do a whole bunch, because I'd rather get to the one where I'm going to probably get you know, a good gangbanger who's got knives, guns, drugs, he's doing some bad shit, and I can get him off the road, versus messing with you for some, you know, you didn't show up for your DUI hearing, you know, because you were drunk driving. All right, whatever. You know, it's not the end of the world. Somebody goes, oh, drunk driving, he could go out and drink again. You know what, he's going to do that when he gets out of jail anyway. I'm not worried about that. But those are the ways cops get in your house. Search warrant, consent. You tell them it's okay, or exigent circumstance. And exigency covers emergencies, destruction of evidence, hot pursuit, a few other things. Okay? Hopefully that clears it up a little bit, and you have a little bit better understanding on what your rights are as a homeowner, or, you know, in a place to where the cops are asking or demanding that you open the door and come in. All right, we'll end that there.